Hey everybody, welcome to our early comics preview video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and this is our little bit longer show where we show you some of the biggest and best books that are releasing this week, coming out Wednesday. So you get a little bit better idea of what to expect when you go into your local comic book store, whether that be Infinity Flux here, or your own store, or infinityflux.net. It's all the same, and it's all here while supplies last. But we've got a lot of big books to show you that you may need a little bit more information on. So when you go in, you go, I want that one and not that one.
Yeah, you're gonna want to know about some of these because some of these are bangers, as the young people say.
Yeah, quite the bangers here is going on up here. But some great stuff. So yes, while supplies last, head on over to infinityflux.net or come by the store on Wednesday when everything releases. But you definitely want to make sure you get some of these. So let's get into it with a very big one. We all know it's going to be big, and we all know it's going to sell out.
Yep, this is Absolute Wonder Woman #1, our second book in DC's new Absolute Universe, written by Kelly Thompson, art by Hayden Sherman. And yeah, you guys know the drill. This is awesome. Absolute Batman was awesome. It sold like gangbusters. This is going to sell like gangbusters. Try to get this one as quick as you can. I'm sure we're going to sell out. Now, they did announce a second printing already, did they?
I don't know if they've announced. I think maybe they have.
If
It's
they
gonna
haven't-
get one way or another.
Yeah. Because this is awesome. Absolute, like I said, Absolute Batman was awesome. And a whole different take on Batman. This is a whole different take on Wonder Woman. This issue starts with what looks like a giant upside down pyramid floating over Gateway City, and there's these flying demon looking creatures that come out and start attacking everybody on the ground. Until a mysterious helmeted woman shows up. She's got a giant sword and she's flying on a skeleton Pegasus. And she starts taking them all out. Now, of course, obviously this is Wonder Woman. And she lands on the ground. She casts some kind of spell to take them all out. So right there, it's like, okay, this Wonder Woman's a little bit different because she's using a little bit of magic. Oh, and she's also flying a big skeleton Pegasus. But at that point, we get a bit of a flashback and we learn about how she grew up. So another big difference here is that she did not grow up on Themyscira. She grew up on the island of Hell. And I don't quite know if that's supposed to represent like hell as we know it or something different.
Yeah.
But regardless, she didn't grow up on Themyscira. She only grew up with the woman who raised her, the mother figure. I don't want to say who it is, but longtime Wonder Woman fans will recognize that person. But she just grew up with that one woman her whole life instead of an island full of Amazons being raised by this whole community of warrior women. We do see a lot more of her origin than that. I'm just trying to be very vague so I don't spoil it. But it's evident that this is a very different Wonder Woman. Snap back to present day. There's another large monster that comes out of this giant upside down pyramid thing. And the rest of the issue is Wonder Woman fighting that monster. And it's really cool. She's got the big sword. She has the skeleton Pegasus, which I guess breathes fire and helps fight against it too. And on the very last page, which is very cool, I won't tell you what it is, but she pulls out another weapon, and I can't wait to see her use that in the next issue. So all that to say, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like I was very vague. There's a lot more in this issue than what I'm telling you, but with a book this big and this special, I want you to experience as much of it as you can as you turn the pages. I don't want to ruin any of it for you. But it's another great entry into the Absolute Universe. This does feel like the Wonder Woman we know, but also a Wonder Woman we don't know. There's quite a few differences in this. Probably, I'd say more differences than there were in Absolute Batman.
Yeah, especially the aesthetic of her
Yeah.
is pretty different.
hmm
She does feel a little bit more, I wouldn't say like not like brutal, but she is a little bit uh she may have that compassion and everything of Wonder Woman, but it's playing second fiddle to
Yeah.
just straight up action
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, she's not like, I mean, she doesn't really have any she has an interaction with one actual like human, but it's very brief, so we don't really see how she is around other people yet.
Mhm.
But yeah, she does feel a bit more brutal, a bit more savage.
Yeah.
But that kind of comes with her upbringing, which we do see in this. I think it's cool that she is a magic user of some sort. I'm not saying that she's like Doctor Strange,
Yeah.
Doctor Fate level, but she does have a little bit of magical aptitude that maybe the main Wonder Woman doesn't have. Yeah, an awesome book. If you liked Absolute Batman and you like the way that story was told and the world they're setting up, I think you're definitely gonna like this. So I highly recommend picking it up.
Yeah, I think it's a really good um first issue because you do get a lot of action in it,
Yeah.
and it's definitely the majority of it, it's action, and it raises, like how Batman did, enough questions
Hmm.
where you see stuff or you hear people say stuff and you kind of go, oh, I wonder more about that, and
Yeah.
we're gonna get it.
Yeah.
So even stuff about the Pegasus and all of that, it's like I want to explore this new Wonder Woman
Yeah.
world and how deep it goes.
And I want to watch Wonder Woman learn more about herself because she knows that she comes from a different heritage than what she grew up with, and she wants to learn more about that. So we are going to go on the journey with her as she finds out who she really is, what she really is, and that kind of thing.
I think they said issue 2, we're going to see Steve Trevor,
Okay.
and Etta Candy is going to be in it at some point. Cheetah is going to play a big
Yeah.
role in it. But just think, after reading Absolute Batman, and how, uh, like, Wayland changed from the Killer Croc, to the
Yeah.
character in there. What are these characters going to be in this? I can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
That's kind of the doors open. They can be anything, and I
Yeah.
can't wait to see that.
Yeah, so very big 2 thumbs up. Our highest recommendation possible. Definitely grab this. And if you buy this from us, whether in store or online, you get the next of the Justice League membership cards. And this is the blank one. So you can draw yourself on here, or you can draw another Justice League member. You should draw a Marvel character to be
Oh
in the Justice League. Yeah, that would
no.
be, you can't do that.
You can't do that.
But
That breaks all
yes,
the rules.
while supplies last, whether in store or online, purchase a copy of Absolute Wonder Woman and get this card to go with it. So, on top of that, we also have some really cool variants. So, this is the Jim Lee variant.
If you were wondering about her sword,
Yep,
yeah.
it's a big one. This is the shoot the DeCall variant, Jeff DeCall. This is the foil logo variant. Very shiny. This is the foil Jim Lee variant, and that's the one that I pre-ordered because that
Also
looks
very
so cool.
shiny.
Yep. And then we have the 1 in 25 by
Dan
Dan
Panosian.
Panosian right there. We're selling that one for $29.99. And then we have the 1 in 50 by DeCall that we are selling for $39.99. Yeah, great start to this new series.
Yeah, I can't wait till people have experienced Batman, Wonder Woman, and
And Superman.
Superman, and then everyone can be on the same page, and
Yeah, yeah,
it'll be
because
great.
spoiler alert, we read Absolute Superman, and it's great too.
Yeah,
So like, DC's 3 for 3 on these new Absolute books. I can't wait for Absolute Superman to come out because I think that one is the meatiest one of all.
I
That
do
has
too.
that has a lot of questions and changes and that kind of thing.
Maybe the
That's
most
the one.
even characters in a book.
Yeah,
I feel like it has the most interactions and that
yeah,
kind of thing.
definitely.
Well, it's been sitting here. You see what my first one is? It is Iron Man #1. So this is a brand new Iron Man series, written by Spencer Ackerman, and the art is by Julius Ota. And I love the previous Iron Man
Yeah,
run. Iron Man
yeah,
is, for me, is one of those characters where I like Iron Man, but I need a good. I won't just get it because it's Iron Man. I want a really good creative team, and I'm very interested in this one because I really like this first issue. So this follows up on a lot of the stuff that happened. It doesn't directly reference it, but it does come from what previously went on with Tony Stark, where he had his relationship with Emma Frost, and they
hmm
were fighting for the mutants on Krakoa. Basically, that whole previous run was about that, and now Tony Stark is back. Something's happened between him and Emma Frost. They're not together anymore, but he is returning to Stark Industries. Fei Long had it for pretty much that entire last run, and things are looking okay for Tony Stark at the beginning of this. A few weird things happen, like he goes to check on one of his facilities, and when he is attacked by someone there, his armor starts failing.
Mhm.
This is his not the most recent armor, not the
I think it's the one from
it's
the
not his,
run before the Jerry Duggan
it's
run.
not his space armor that he just had. And
Yeah, it's not the Mysterion armor.
he even talks about
Yeah.
that it's not that, but it does start to malfunction and causes a pretty serious injury for Tony Stark. The other thing that happens is when he returns to Stark Industries and gets ready to, do the thing Tony Stark does. He's like, I don't want to make weapons anymore. I want to switch production to something else. He's met with a pretty brutal surprise when he finds out that Stark Industries is being sold to two very not good companies
Mhm.
that we know within the Marvel universe that have teamed up to buy this, and Tony might not have a say in it. But there's a lot of interesting things that goes on here. How is that tied in with his armor failing? And
Because it is.
it is tied
Yeah.
in. And who is behind the purchase of Stark
Mhm.
Industries is another big reveal that you've seen it on the cover for issue number 2. Ironmonger is going to play a big part in this, and when you find out what Ironmonger is made of, how that relates to Tony Stark, you can tell this is going to be a very tough series for Tony
Yeah.
going forward. Um, you will learn in here why he builds this new armor.
Yeah.
He does have a reason for needing this new armor, and just there's some interesting stuff in here about how maybe Tony has dealt with tech a lot, but he hasn't really thought about maybe magic or how that might affect stuff. I like the Iron Man books where Tony's so smart. He pretty much has like, I have a suit for that, I have a suit for that. But someone comes to him and they present a problem that he has not thought about.
Yeah.
And he doesn't immediately have a solution for it. And you're basically seeing him build a way to
Yeah.
uh, you know, patch holes in his ship,
Yeah.
basically. So really, really cool. I really like this first issue. And it does look like it's going to be a relatively dark run. Just Tony just keeps getting beaten
Yeah.
down and can't hold on to his company and all of that.
And I will say we don't see this armor in this
No.
issue, but you do find out why he needs this, like
And
you said. Yeah.
I think you see him building it.
Yeah.
Which is very fun. But yeah, if you're a Iron Man fan, you'll definitely want to jump onto this one. There's a lot of action in this one.
Oh yeah. There's a couple different armors, like
Yeah.
you said, but like there was the one from a couple runs ago, but then there's one from like the I think it was Dan Slott and David Marquez did the art. The one that was a lot more like nanotech. Like there's several different armors in this that he has to keep going back to.
Yeah, and some really fun surprise characters in this that I feel like are going to be big threats for this series. So that is our Iron Man #1. And I'm going to say, this is the Stark Roxxon War. So if that tells you Roxxon is involved, you know it is not good. But I thought it's interesting. You're starting with a #1, and it's immediately like, hey, we're in this story.
Yeah.
Which I kind of appreciate that. I mean, that shows you they don't dawdle. This gets going right away.
Yeah, it does.
So that is your A cover. We've got a couple of variants because it is one of the biggest characters. So we've got a Kumar variant. I think all of these he's wearing his new suit, which does not appear
Which does
yet.
not appear, yeah.
More This Happens. This is our Scotty Young cover. Of course, it's a #1, so there's got to be a Scotty Young cover. This one is really cool. This is our Philip Tan foil variant. And behind him is a bunch of old, like, broken down Iron Man suits.
Yeah.
We have our McCone variant, our Doom variant. And we have this 1 in 25 Lionel Francis Yu variant, which is really cool, where he's like breaking the glass. That we're selling for $14.99.
Well, next I've got Superman #19, and we're top of the show. We're talking about a #19. That's because this issue is awesome. So this is the first issue of Superman in the new All In era. This is a new jumping on point, start of a new story arc. And I will tell you that this is a wonderful jumping on point. If you've been wanting to read Superman, or if you've just been looking for a fun actual comic book to read, get this. You don't have to have read anything because this is a start of all new stuff. Still written by Joshua Williamson, but now Dan Mora is on the interior artwork. And so the book looks beautiful. So the first thing I'll say right off the bat is a while back that they announced that starting in this story arc, Lois Lane was going to have powers very similar to Superman. And I just want to tell you right now, in case you're reading and you're confused, we don't know how she got it. We don't know why, how, anything like that. So if you do jump on, you don't have to go back and try to figure that out because even longtime readers, we do not know. It's not explained. It will get explained to us in December. There's a Superwoman special one shot coming that will fill in those blanks, but that's not there yet. So just Superman or Lois has powers and she's Superwoman now. We don't know why, but it doesn't matter because it's still really fun. We'll find out later. But we first see her use these powers when she and Superman respond to an attack by the atomic skull at the zoo in Metropolis, and it's a short sequence, but it's really cool what atomic skull does with a couple of the animals there. After they're done dealing with that, they're heading back to the Daily Planet, and they hear another attack, and it's Doomsday, who is back from hell. And it's one of the coolest double page splashes I've ever seen. Dan Mora drawing Doomsday. I don't. It's been released online, but I still won't tell you in case you haven't seen it yet. So they're about to square off with Doomsday, and all of a sudden time stops for everything and everyone. Time stops except for Superman. And we learned that it's the work of the Time Trapper. That's not a spoiler because that was in the solicitations. We talked about it on this show as well. And the Time Trapper tells Superman that what happens next will decide the fate of everything. And we do see who the Time Trapper is.
That part's really cool because I mean, even if you go on Wikipedia and look up Time Trapper, there's been a lot of people referenced as Time Trapper. So going to this, you don't even know really who is under this, but you do find out, and it's
raises a lot of questions.
That was leading up to the reveal. Had guesses going through my head about what it was, and I turned the page. And I was like, that is one of the last things I expected.
Yeah, you will not guess for sure. But and it's like, what? What is what? And
it's
then
a great cliffhanger.
Yeah, excellent cliffhanger. So I just want to say, this is one of the best single issues I've read all year. I know I said that a couple weeks ago with Absolute Batman, and that's true too. But this is just another one. I love this. I read it twice over the weekend because it's just that good. Now it's never been a better time to be a Superman fan than right now. It's never been a better time to be a DC fan than right now because this is think about the most classic Superman you can think of, and it's this. Although Lois has powers too, that's a little bit weird. But the artwork by Dan Mora is phenomenal. The Return of Doomsday, everything they're setting up there.
There's also, if you remember Superman #1 for Joshua Williamson, at the very end, there was kind of slides of things to come.
Yeah, there's 4 little panels that says, coming up in Superman, boom, 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 boom.
And this does that with a bunch of stuff that's oh, what's that about? Oh, what's that about? Which is really, really cool.
And I almost missed it. We were on that last page. I was like, oh, that was cool. And then because we're reading a digital copy, so I swiped one more. I thought it was at the end, but I always swipe. And that page was there. So don't miss that because it's really cool. Because I saw those holy cow.
Yeah.
There is some big stuff coming for Superman. It looks awesome.
And I also would say it's, what I love about it is it has that charming Superman feel too. Lois kind of has a Clark Kent moment where she needs to go change. And it's just one of the most delightful scenes where she kind of sees what Clark has always gone through trying to get away and that kind of thing. So you'll have a smile on your face going through the entire issue.
Yeah.
Your jaw will drop at a few points, and you'll want to go online and find a few of these to make wallpapers on your phone. Because
my gosh.
Of these scenes are super cool and really iconic.
Yeah, there's the nice double page splash of Doomsday. There's another double page splash that just looks gorgeous. Dan Mora, my favorite artist right now, just killing it on this. I could talk about I could spend this whole show talking about this one issue because I love this. Definitely pick it up. if you, like I said, if you've been wanting to read Superman, if you've been reading Superman, or you just want an awesome comic book to read, this is it right here. I love this. So, like, highest recommendation possible. So there's our A cover right there. We got some cool variants. This is the Carl Cohen variant with Lois as Superwoman. And then, of course, here's your Daniel Sampere foil variant, which is almost mirror-like, and you
Yeah.
can see her in her new costume. And we will learn more about this in December. How and why and all that stuff. Loved
Next up, I've got a much different kind of DC
it.
book.
Yeah.
This is DC Horror Presents #1. It's going to be a 4-issue miniseries. And this is in your style of your anthology horror comics that we've been getting from Image, from everybody, um, but with recognizable DC characters. And it's pretty brutal. Like you even see on the cover, whatever's going on with Superman, not cool.
That's
Uh,
after his fight with Doomsday.
I guess so, where Doomsday decides to use some kind of wire to
Yeah.
wrap him up. Um, so this has 2 stories in it, and the first one is by David Dasmalchian and Leah Kilpatrick, and the art is by Kat Staggs. This one, when I was reading it from the beginning, it gives you the title of the story at the very beginning of this one. But I was reading, I was like, I don't know, is Batman going to drop in here at some point? What is this? I couldn't figure out how is this related to the DC universe until the end. And it is pretty messed up as a woman's husband kind of falls to his death from a building, and she is running out to like grab him, see what's going on or whatever, and the ambulance shows up and won't let her near him. But she still wants to get to him, and she'll do whatever she can to
Mm.
get to him, including attacking the ambulance. And eventually, she has a plan to uh, keep him from dying, even though he is pretty much already dead.
Okay.
You got some dark supernatural stuff in here, maybe supernatural, maybe evil science, but you will see how it's tied in with the DC universe. And then the second one is a really fun story by the Boulet brothers, um, and this one is uh, set on Themyscira, and we find them on the third night of for 3 nights a Amazonian has shown up dead, either like hanging somewhere or something horrible has happened, and Wonder Woman and the rest of the Amazonians like we have to figure out what's going on, and they follow the clues, the trail back to the crypt of Wonder Woman's mother, and you'll have to see what happens from there. But it's pretty horrifying. It's a kind of a there's a twist ending to it that is really cool. But yeah, 2 horror stories that are pretty mature. This is not a fun, spooky, like kids horror story. This is pretty scary stuff and pretty graphic and all of that. But it's very interesting that it's set within the DC universe, so you do get that familiarity with
Yeah.
the stuff going on as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited about because I love horror anthology books. I didn't get a chance to read this one, so I'm excited to read a horror anthology book that's also DC. Like
Yeah.
I think it's really cool.
So if you're looking for a unique take on the anthology horror, try DC Horror Presents. Like I said, 4 issues. I can't wait to see what characters kind of come into this,
Yeah.
because it may not always be the ones you think. So that is our A cover for that. We've got some great variants. So we have a Dave Johnson variant, which is really, really cool.
I like this one.
Yeah, this one, I wish this was a story in the book. It's not, but I mean, my brain like automatically makes up stories for it. This is our Francavilla variant with Batgirl and a giant rat and like the bones of Robin.
Yeah.
Just my brain just builds a story
Yeah,
out of
for sure.
that.
All right, well, next up, we've got The Sacred Damned #1. This is written by Sabir Pirzada, and the art is by Michael Walsh. Now, this is the second book in the Horizon Experiment line of books, which is a group of 5 one-shots that takes a protagonist from a marginalized background and puts them in a popular genre. So this one, and this is on the inside of the cover here, this one is described as a Muslim John Constantine. So this is centered around a college student named Kyle. Everything's coming up Kyle in the beginning of this, right? He's a football star. He's being recruited by the NFL. He's getting straight A's in all of his classes. His relationship with his girlfriend is very good, and you'll see what I mean about that. But he starts gaining a lot of weight due to him eating food in his sleep. And at first, he doesn't think much of it, but it eventually becomes an uncontrollable problem. He gets above 300 pounds, and he finds that he's waking up in strange places and sees that he has eaten some pretty gruesome things. And he checks himself into a hospital to get some serious help. He's eventually approached by a woman named Dr. Anaya Jibril, who is a professor of ethnography and the occult. And so that's where kind of like your John Constantine kind of comparison comes in. And she tells him that she believes he is possessed by a jinn, which is in Islamic texts they explain that is a creature made of fire that can possess humans. And so she works with him a little bit, and one night she takes him out to the woods in order to help him get rid of the jinn possessing him. But then there's like a whole sequence after that that I don't want to get into because I don't want to spoil it, but it gets pretty intense. There's a couple of twists and turns, and you don't really know, it goes this way, but then it goes that way. So it doesn't end the way you expect it will. But this was a really cool book. It definitely has a horror vibe to it, which I love. I love horror books. It definitely has that vibe to it. Michael Walsh does the art, so it looks like it could go with maybe like the Silver Coin
Hmm.
line of books. What Silver Coin was a horror anthology book as well. This feels like it could fit right in line with that. But the deal with these Horizon Experiment books is like each one is a one shot, so each one does that story does wrap up. It doesn't end on a cliffhanger, but it also leaves just a little bit open to where if sales are good and demand is high, they could do more. And I would love to see more of this. There is a little bit of an opening at the end where I could definitely see this going forward some more, and I would love to see that because this definitely is creepy. I would love to know more about this Dr. Jabril, the jinn that she is very knowledgeable about, and you'll see what I mean when you read it. Um, it's just great, like a great another spooky book. And yeah, like I said, love to see more. I think there's three more coming, all in different genres and different characters and things like that. But I really like this one a lot. So yeah, a nice addition to this Horizon Experiment. So we have our A cover right there, and then we have this one variant from Tula Lotte.
I think that's part of the connecting covers
Oh,
for
that's
all
right.
these.
Yeah, I forgot these do connect. Mhm.
Okay, next up, I've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue number 3, and I feel like every issue of this series is my favorite.
All right.
So that tells you anything. This is great. So continue to be written by Jason Aaron. This time the art is by Cliff Chiang, who, whenever I think of Cliff Chiang, I think of his New 52 Wonder Woman.
Right. Yeah.
That's
Same.
like, he had a really great run on that. But this is really cool. So it focuses on Leonardo, and all of this is taking place like post whatever happened in the first 150
Yeah.
issues where the turtles have split up and gone their different directions. And with Leonardo, he has gone to the banks of the Ganges River basically to give up. Like, it feels very defeated.
Mm.
Um, he's not really sure what he wants to do, but he buries his swords, and he knows that there is these turtles there that I don't know if he's trying to like get. He's kind of chosen to become a turtle, like given to his
Yeah.
turtle self.
Yeah, there's in a part where he says, I've decided to become a turtle" or something like
Yeah.
that, and yeah.
Um, but these turtles, because they have their funeral pyres on the edges of the Ganges. Bits of body wash up, and the turtles have adapted to eating these bodies, which does play a part in here. But Leonardo basically is. I feel like he comes in with kind of a pie in the sky idea of how this is all going to go
Yeah.
down, and he meditates and he sits there and he's like, I'm going to kind of commune with these turtles and join them and everything. And it shows him just sitting there for maybe days or something. And the only thing that happens is one comes up and bites his finger, which
Yeah.
I thought was really really funny. But he's basically like, that's it. Like, I don't know what to do. This isn't working. What I had in my life before isn't working. But he does find a calling when some poachers come to take a bunch of the turtles, and he's kind of adopted these, or the turtles have adopted him as a family, and he has to defend them. And this kind of mirrors something that happens later in the series when, as we've seen in all of these, the Foot Clan comes for the turtles, and Leonardo finds that he has a bigger calling.
Mhm.
But this is great. There's a lot of humor in this, but also a lot of kind of self meditation from Leonardo, and kind of where he sees himself at this point in his life. I feel like it shouldn't be called like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It should be called like Young Adult Ninja Turtles,
Yeah.
because they do feel like they're coming to a new stage of their life where
Yeah.
they are having to figure out a little bit more about, you know, their responsibilities and all of that. But this was just fantastic. The art is great. There's some great action. The way Cliff Chiang draws Leonardo feels almost like the animated series. He's, you know, bold lines. His proportions are very close to that. But it's a very serious, and you know, this is your like turtles in the comics have usually been a little bit more mature. Not even in violence or anything, but just story
Yeah.
is pretty deep. But I love this issue, and you know, there's a part in the end that feels like the next issue is all gonna pull the turtles together in the Donatello issue, which I cannot wait
Yeah.
for. But that is your A cover. We also have, this is how Clip Ching draws Leonardo, and it is so
Yeah, it
cool.
looks great.
We've got a Gonzo variant. That's kind of what Leonardo does on the beach for a little while.
Mhm.
I love what he's wearing too. He's got like this like hood on
Yeah.
and this cape. And of course, some guy called Kevin Eastman drew a turtle.
Never heard of him.
Yep. And then I think lastly, oh, we got some incentives too. We have this really nice Cliff Chiang variant, which is pretty accurate to what this issue looks like. Then we have a 1 in 25 Earls variant we're selling for $29.99, which is really cool. And we have a Robertson variant. This is the 1 in 50. We're selling for $34.99.
I like that one a
Yeah,
lot.
that's really cool.
Well, next I've got Green Lantern Dark #1. This is our next DC Elseworlds book. This is written by Tate Bromble. The art is by Werther Dell'Edera of Something is Killing the Children fame. So, like I said, Elseworlds book. This is set on a world where the world's heroes tried and failed to stop a cataclysmic event, and now the world is shrouded in darkness. And evil has thrived in this darkness, and the worst evil of them all is Solomon Grundy, who resurrects the dead and sends them to feast on the living. So there's a little bit of a horror element there. However, there is tale of one hero left who will be a light in the darkness, a hero known as Green Lantern. But not everybody believes in Green Lantern. There is this one girl, though, named Lunette, and she regales her town with tales of Green Lantern. And she actually gets to meet Green Lantern one night when the diner she's in is attacked by the dead that Solomon Grundy has summoned. And Green Lantern does help out, but afterwards just wants to be left alone. But Lunette pesters her to help the town, so she reluctantly agrees, and eventually leads to a cool sequence where this new Green Lantern defends the entire town from a whole horde of dead, including Solomon Grundy himself. So this is a 48-page book. There's a lot more to it, but I don't want to spoil anything. Um, but I will say this issue doesn't really tell us much about this new Green Lantern. We do learn her name, but we don't really know how she's Green Lantern, why, that kind of thing. It just kind of throws us in there. I did look ahead to issue #2, and it looks like we'll get some of those answers then. We do get a peek at the world before this darkness happened.
So it's not Earth, it's like an alien planet.
No, it's Earth.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's but it's Elseworld, so
Yeah.
it's like just some other Earth. So we do get a look at what that Earth was like before all this happened, and it looks like we might get some more information about this new Green Lantern, who she really is, how she became Green Lantern, and maybe the power where her power comes from, because she doesn't just have a regular ring. She's got like this I don't know if you can really tell. So like she's got this staff and it actually has a lantern hanging off the end of it. She's got a cloak and everything. So it looks like she's actually seems like she's more akin to Alan Scott Green Lantern
Yeah.
than she is maybe like Hal Jordan. But lots more to learn. But this was a good introductory issue into this new Earth and this new character. So yeah, just an interesting new take on this. Is wildly different too than Hal Jordan and all those guys. This is very, very different, but very interesting. So there's our A cover right there. Now we do have this variant by Homer, and that's a good look at Green Lantern in the story with her hood down. She looks quite a bit like that. There is also this variant by David Nakayama, and I don't know who this is. She does not look like that whatsoever. I wonder if maybe it's the Green Lantern before,
Mm-hmm.
because there's kind of the same pose. So I wonder if it's maybe like a before and after. Like maybe this is this is like the Abin Sur type
Yeah.
character who then passes the power onto this. I'm not really sure yet, but still a great design. I do hope we see whoever that is at some point because she looks great. But yeah, new interesting Green Lantern.
Well, I've got something old and something new. This
Mhm.
is Nightwing issue 119
And something blue, kind
and
of.
something
Yeah.
blue. So someone's getting married. Uh, so this is Nightwing. This is our new creative team on Nightwing, which is Dan Waters writing it, and the art is by Dexter Soy, which is phenomenal in this.
Yeah.
It looks like what I want a Nightwing book to look
Yep.
like.
Same.
So you don't really have to know anything about the previous run of Nightwing. It doesn't really allude to any of that. It feels very classic
Uh-huh.
Nightwing in this, but we see a bunch of criminal leaders, and they're very like colorful. There's like a teddy bear gang where the
Yeah.
character has like a teddy
Yeah.
bear, and then there's like these guys that are like big, tough, and like clean shaven and all this kind of stuff is one. There's one that's I forgot. There's one that's like kind of spooky. Oh, they're like based off of like bugs or something.
Yeah. There's four of. I don't remember what they were like, but yeah, they're
But
all
they
wildly
all,
different.
yeah, they're very like Batman esque.
Yeah.
You know, like very villain characters. But all of a sudden, and this isn't a spoiler because this is just the setup for the story. The building they're in blows up, killing them all, and that sends all of their gangs that they're the heads of kind of blaming each other for what happened, and has caused a lot of unrest in
Yeah.
Bloodhaven.
Because you have all these gangs and no one to lead them,
Yeah,
so they're just kind of running
it
around.
literally as they fight they're like your person's behind this
Yeah.
type thing. So Nightwing of course has to deal with this, but also while this is going on, he does go, like Dick Grayson goes to see his sister, who is she currently mayor but
She's
also running for another term.
right.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. He goes to her to talk about this, but finds out that she is in a meeting with someone who is the head of a company that is moving into Bloodhaven that makes some pretty nasty weapons and defenses against people with metahuman powers. And of course, Nightwing is not okay with this, but also it is a very scary and dangerous time in Bloodhaven with all
Hmm.
these gangs running rampant and everything. Uh, so Dick Grayson does have kind of a plan to deal with the gangs, and it's a little bit of a if you can't beat them, join them, or hey, let's work together. But there's this big mystery about who caused all this, and it does. We see them, and
We see who it is, but we don't
we
know
don't
who it
know who it
is.
is. We
Yeah.
don't have a name, but they're pretty creepy, and
Yeah.
the aesthetic of them and
Hmm.
everything is really creepy. This is great. This is it just reminds me of the like early 2000s Nightwing series that I love so much that uh you know feels a little bit more uh similar to the Batman series going on than the previous Nightwing series was very bright. It almost felt
Hmm.
like more of like a Superman
Yeah.
type book. It was always sunny. It was always, he's swinging from buildings and he's all that. This is a little bit more rainy. It's a dark city.
Yeah.
He's beating up criminals in a back alley type thing. So if that's more of your Nightwing speed, you'll definitely want to check this out. Like I said, the art by Dexter Soy is fantastic. I highly recommend this. This could have easily been a number one.
Hmm.
I'm glad they didn't renumber it because it's awesome. It's a badge of honor. Like I think Todd McFarlane talks about with Spawn. It's a badge of honor to say I've been going for this many
Yeah.
issues. And I feel like it's great. It keeps going, but also you could treat this as a number one and pick it up. So I highly recommend Nightwing issue number 119. We've also got some great variant covers, including a Dan Panosian variant. Maybe Nightwing's considering about changing to be a pigeon.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we also have a Gleb Milkanov cover as well, which is really cool. And we have our DC All In Simper variant.
All right. Well, I've got The Moon is Following Us #2. Of course, written by Daniel Warren Johnson, art by Riley Rossmo. Now, I will say, issue number 1 was amazing, but it threw us right into the middle of this fantastical story in this fantasy setting with all these different creatures and like anthropomorphic animal looking characters. So it was, and we didn't quite know what was going on. It was a lot of fun, but we didn't really see until the very last page what it really was, right? And but even then, we're like, well, how did it get to this point, right? This issue gives you those answers. So it fills us in on. It's set. Most of it is set before. Actually, the whole thing is set before the first issue. Like you could actually read this first and then read issue number 1 because you could treat this like a prequel almost. But this is set before the events of the first issue. We see how everything gets the way it is. What happens to Penny, who is the little girl at the center of all of this. And I'm trying to be vague because it is a big spoiler for the last page of the first issue if you haven't read that yet. So I don't want to say exactly what it is. But we do see how we got to this place. We see how the parents got to this fantasy world and what it is that they're trying to rescue Penny from. But yeah, if you read the first one and you liked it, but you were a little bit confused, this will give you those answers. And in my opinion, like I like this better than issue number 1, even though number 1 was great. I like this one even better because we have those answers now, and I feel like now we have a complete picture, or at least we know the hows and whys and everything. And now that we know that, now we can sit back and enjoy this amazing story that we're going to get over the course of the next. I think it's 8 more issues. I think it's 10 issues total. So now that we have these answers, we're going to get a great story. But yeah, this fills in all the blanks from the first issue and makes the story just that much better. And the artwork from Riley Rossmo, I was showing you some pages like he's on another level in this book. There are some really pretty, just amazing imagery in this, some really cool ways to show what this fantasy world looks like. It's amazing. So a fantastic issue of The Moon is Following Us, and this is the only cover I've got.
Well, next up, let's go back to Gotham with Detective Comics number 1090. We're only 10 away from 1100, which they're going to make a big deal. But this is a new creative team. Ram V wrapped up his huge opus that he was telling for years. Now we have previous Nightwing writer Tom Taylor taking over Batman with this one, with art by Michael Janin. And this is another great jumping on point.
It really is a good jumping on point, yeah. And I'll just say too, because I went through this, like Ron V stuff started to get a little bit involved, and I was having trouble keeping up with it. But this brand new start, if you kind of hopped off Detective and you've been wanting to get back on, do it with this. It's great.
Yeah, this almost feels like this could take place at any point with Batman. This is kind of a evergreen story. But I will say at the beginning that when they talked about doing the DC All In, the kind of pitch for it was, take the biggest swings you can. If you have a story you've always wanted to tell, but you've been a little nervous to tell it, or thinking like, well, this is a little big, it's a little risky, to go ahead and do it. That's what I feel like this is, and we only get a taste of it in this first issue, but I feel like this is going to be really big for Batman. So in this, and it's kind of takes place in 2 timelines. So part of this is jumps. I forgot if it jumps back a couple of days or whatever, but you do see Batman, and he is
well, there's present day, and then we get a little bit of a glimpse at 3 weeks into the future,
right,
and then several years in Batman's past.
So in the kind of near future, is kind of what it feels like we're gonna be leading up to,
right?
As somebody, we don't know who, has someone kind of bound there, and basically tells Batman, "I've been waiting for you to show up because you need to see the last seconds of this person's life." And that's kind of the cold open of what is going on here. And we jump back, so we actually jump way back to Thomas Wayne. This is, I'm guessing, before Bruce is born, or no, he's like, I mean, he's very
He's
young.
young,
He's
yeah.
very young, and this deals a lot with um, kind of what makes Bruce Wayne such a good person later is Thomas Wayne and his, he's a doctor and he follows an oath of helping whoever needs the help. And they do learn that someone comes in and they know that this is a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, this is a kind of a, you know, I don't know how to say it, but he's not like a villain. He's like just a bad dude who's in a very bad
Yeah,
situation.
well, they it's a boyfriend girlfriend. She's pregnant. They get in a car accident. He's on the brink of death, and they say, and he's apparently he beats her.
Yeah.
He's like a wife or a woman beater, and they say you could just like not do anything and just let him go on, but Thomas Wayne says I took an oath. I save
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, and there it's is reflected later of Batman thinking that too is like, I kind of fall in line with what my father did, and it's
Mhm.
not up to me to choose what someone does with their life after I save them. But that does set, there's a lot of people who don't want Thomas to do what he does, but
Right.
he does end up saving this person. So that is going to play into the future story, but where in the present day, Batman is dealing with someone on the streets who is attacking young criminals, like kids, young adults,
Yeah.
teenagers who are either burglars or they're that kind of
Yeah, just like
something.
typical robbers and stuff, not
Yeah.
like criminal masterminds, but just people knocking off 7-Elevens and stuff.
Yeah. So, but somebody is going after them, and then Batman's trying to track him down. But in the meantime, he does feel a little guilty for an encounter he has where maybe he should have stopped one of these criminals, and he didn't because he focused on a different one, and something happens to that one. So this feels like a big story of morals and what Batman. Is there any concessions you have to make from one person to another? Is this evil greater than this evil, even though this one is still evil? It deals a lot with that. And there's another thing that goes on where Bruce Wayne goes to see uh, someone that he knows from when he was younger. Her name is Scarlet Martha Scott, and she was actually raised in one of the Wayne foundations and shelters. And of course, he knew her from there. But she's been very successful. She's very smart, and she might have created a cure to keep people young,
Mm-hmm.
and offers it to Bruce. And there's some also ethical reasons behind this that maybe he's not okay with this. But the Batman side of him says, hey, I am getting older. What would it be like if I could stay young? So there's a lot of stories going on, but they're not confusing. They're all very distinct, and
Yeah.
it feels like it's weaving a tapestry to a big thing you learn at the end of this issue, that definitely all the pieces kind of fall into place and you realize what's going on, and sets the scene, like I said, for a very big swing at a
Yeah.
Batman story that I am super interested to see where it goes from here. So definitely, if you're not reading Detective Comics, maybe you fell off because the last story was big and it was great, but it was, if you missed a part or something, you were out of the loop. If you're looking to jump back in, this is a fantastic place to do it, and this is going to have some big emotional ramifications for Batman, if not bigger stuff for the character going forward. So highly recommend Detective Comics number 1090, and it's going to be big when we get to 1100.
Mm-hmm.
So great time to jump in on it there. We've got our A cover. We also have our Tony Harris variant, which is very cool. We have our look. You've got Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo working
Oh
together
yeah.
again. This is our Redondo cover. Could also be Space Ghost.
Could be.
Without the ears, you never know. And we also have this Dan Panosian variant, which is very, very cool.
All right, I've got a new one from Image called Nullhunter, and this is written by Michael Walsh. So the last book we looked, or the couple books ago,
It was drawn by
was
him.
drawn by Michael Walsh, and now we get one that is written by him, and the art is by Gustavo Vargas. And this is described as a kinetic cyberpunk retelling of the labors of Hercules, and you can definitely see it here. So this is centered around a war hero named Clay, who returns home after this big war that happened. Um, but he's having trouble sleeping, and he's not feeling great about himself because he did some unspeakable things during that war. But his father, who is named Zace, he is the head of this powerful company named Olympos. But that second O is a zero,
Of course.
because again, this is this futuristic cyberpunk kind of thing. So he tells Clay that Clay's cybernetic enhancements were actually hacked by somebody, and that's why he did all of these unspeakable things during that war. So, being the head of this mega corporation, he's able to upgrade Clay's cybernetics. They're hack proof, you're stronger, you're faster. There's all these extra little bells and whistles. So he gets that, but then he sends Clay on a mission to a called Nemea, but it's N3M-3A.
In the future, we can't keep our letters and our numbers
Right, yeah.
apart.
But he sends him there to hijacked shipment of war lions. So just like in the original story of Hercules, thank you for filling me in. Clay has to fight a giant cybernetic lion, just like he did. What was it again? That was the original story. Right?
Listen, the Seven Labors of Hercules,
Yeah.
Where he fought the Nemean lion
Yeah.
as kind of atonement for what he did in his past.
So that's exactly what happens in
Yeah.
this, except it's future cyberpunk. The big lion that he fights is like this big, like cybernetic looking animal, almost like something like from Horizon Zero Dawn. If you've ever
Yeah.
played that, kind of looks like something like that. But it's this big, like cybernetic animal, and he has to fight that. So yeah, it sounds like they're sticking to the story pretty well.
So if you know those stories, you can guess what he's going to be going up against.
Yeah. And so then after all of that, we see that maybe Zace didn't help Clay out of the goodness of his heart, and then maybe he has ulterior motives for him. So I just thought this was really cool.
His name is Zace.
Yeah, Zays.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's kind of close to Zeus.
right. So I don't really know I don't know the legend of Hercules and the labors that he had to go through, but sounds like they're sticking pretty close to it. But this was really cool. Like the visual style was really cool, like very colorful. The cybernet. I mean, this looks very futuristic, cyberpunk. The cybernetics and the technology are crazy in this. So yeah, it was just really interesting to try out. So there's our A cover, and that is the only cover that we have.
Let's try to think. Was it 7 labors? How many labors did
I don't know.
Okay, next up, as I was trying to look that up real quick, I can't remember if it was 7. That sounds right.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And they're pretty rough too. Next up, we have Alien Romulus #1. Now, I think this somewhere it called this an annual, but it's not an annual
Yeah.
for anything because it's not attached to any ongoing
It was
series.
in the solicitation because I didn't catch it when we talked about it the first time, but then later I was like, wait, this says it's an annual, but there's not another Alien book, so I don't really understand. It's a one shot, I guess.
Yeah, this is a one shot. This is if you are if you saw the new Alien Romulus movie, and there's the opening scene where you have the well, first I'll say this is by Zach Thompson and the art is by Danielle Picciotto. So this is set 23 years after Alien, and you have Weyland Yutani investigating the wreckage of the Nostromo, which happens in the beginning of Alien Romulus, where they pull that meteor thing in and they find that an alien is like encased in this kind of like fossilized form. So it starts there, but we follow that a little bit further because we know that the alien somehow gets out, and that's kind of where a lot of the story in Romulus takes place. But in this one, they bring it inside, and of course, they do what no one should do, but they start experimenting on it because that's just what Weyland does. But we also meet Hyla, who is the head of the security on this ship. And of course, stuff is going to go down. We do see a bit of her backstory, how she has faced stuff similar to Aliens before. But this is a definitive prequel to the movie. It even has a foreword, I believe, by the director in it that talks about it. But there's certain things I don't want to give it away. One, because the movie I think is now on streaming, but like you have to pay for it,
Yeah.
so it's still people should see it. It's great.
It's great.
I love
It's really
Alien
good. Yeah.
Romulus. But there is some key things that you see in the movie that this shows you how certain pieces got in certain places, including when they go to the ship in the movie and you discover some stuff there. All the pieces are in place, which I thought was really really cool. So if you are a fan of that movie, this just kind of enriches your experience. You get a little bit more information, and I thought it was really good. The art was great in this, and it does say in the back that we are getting a new Alien series, I believe, in December. So
Oh,
it
okay.
does tease that as well. So that is your A cover. We have a movie variant. Looks like they're hugging there. And we also have a Chichetto variant, which is very cool.
Well, I've got a new one from Magma Comics, who's been putting out a lot of great stuff lately. This is called Day of the Dead Girl. This is the first issue. It's written by AJ Mendez and Amy Garcia, and the art is by Belen Culebras. And this is centered around a young woman named Sam Castillo. She has moved back home with her mother to help her mother to help her mother. What am I trying to say? To help her mother not lose their home is what I'm trying to say. Um, but Sam is a coroner who believes in science, while her mother Anna is a spiritual woman who is a teacher, but she's also the leader of a coven of Brujas. And so, needless to say, they're opposites, right? Her mother's very spiritual and believes in, afterlife and all that kind of stuff, and Sam believes in what she can prove scientifically. Well, one night, one of the members of Anna's coven is murdered, and Sam performs an autopsy and finds something very strange with the woman's heart. There's actually a marking on it. But then even weirder things start to happen around the morgue. Very, you know, your typical horror movie things like, oh, I think somebody else is here. Hey, are you back? A door flies open, that kind of thing. And so it's all gonna, lead, or I think anyway, lead Sam down a path of learning that maybe not everything can be proven scientifically. We know that we get a brief glimpse, and we know from the solicitations there's a serial killer who is targeting some of these members of this coven, and that's all going to play in. So it was just really interesting. I like the artwork, the colors, and everything. This was a really cool issue. Like I said, Magnum's been doing some great stuff, and this is another one. That's our A cover, and that's the only cover we have.
12 labors. Hercules had
12.
12
Wow, that's even
labors.
more than 7. Okay.
Okay, next up, that's just to keep people from getting on to me in the
Yeah,
comments.
right.
Next up, we have Hack Slash Body Bags #1. I was very excited about this. I love Hack Slash. It's one of my favorite series. It's just dumb fun. It's
Hmm.
over the top, action, horror, all of that. And if you're not familiar, Body Bags was a series back from, I believe, like 1994 by Jason Pearson, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. This is dedicated to him, but he created these characters of Clownface and his daughter Panda, who are body baggers, which is basically bounty hunters
Hmm.
that work out of Terminus, Georgia, which was the original name for Atlanta, which I didn't realize.
Oh, I didn't
And
know
there's
that.
also a Terminus in Walking Dead. There's a
Hmm.
real Terminus, all of that. But this is by Tim Seeley, your creator of Hack Slash, and art by Stefano Caselli, which is fantastic. Um, and this is really cool. So it is kind of the mashup of these two worlds that work very well together. You have Cassie and Vlad, your classic hack slash characters, are heading to Terminus, Georgia, because they have heard that there's been some murders that fit the kind of slasher motif that they go after. You know, they hunt down your classic like 80s movie slashers that pop up, and it fits that motif, so they go looking for that. Meanwhile, Clownface, who is the dad, um, is upset with how his daughter, because this feels like this takes place like right after the first volume of they've just started working together,
Oh, okay.
um, because his daughter Panda is very reckless. You know, he's very like good at his job. He shows up right when he needs to. Everything. She just goes in crazy and all of that. She's reckless, and she did something that basically meant they didn't get paid for their last job, and so he sends her to a school for other young body baggers to learn how to do this job. Because in this world, that's just like a profession. You're
Mhm.
just a bounty hunter. Um, so as Cassie is hunting for this killer she believes is called Edge Lord, who's kind of a superhero serial killer. It kind of he's got a costume and everything. She starts asking around and realizes that the killer maybe has worked in the past with Clownface, and that's going to bring them all together. But this is fun. It's full of action and violence and all the stuff you expect from both hack slash and body bags. And yeah, it's just really fun. It's going to be a mini series, and I highly recommend it. So maybe not if you haven't read. I think if you haven't read Body Bags, that's fine because there's not a whole lot. I think there's 3 volumes of that from the 90s, but you do need to know a little bit about at least what hack slash is about and their profession and all of that. But there is your A cover, and that is the only one I have.
All right, well, next up, I've got Spider Boy number 12, and I wanted to talk about this because this is the first appearance of the new Spider Girl, who, there's what she looks like right there. So she first appears in this, but she's not necessarily an ally to Spider Boy like you might think. But in this book, now that the world remembers who Spider Boy is and all the good things he has done, his neighborhood has declared it's Spider Boy Day. And Spider Boy, Bailey's out, and his mom gives him permission to put the costume on and go celebrate with everybody who's cheering him on. So he's really having a great time until Daredevil swoops in and carries him up to a rooftop. And he's very stern. He's like, now that the world remembers who you are, that enemies now remember who you are as well, and all the things that you've done to him, right? So they're going to be coming after you. Well, one of those enemies is Bullseye, who now remembers a time when he fought Daredevil in a contest for a golden fang. But during that battle, Spider Boy distracted Bullseye, and that allowed Daredevil to beat him. And so now Bullseye is out for revenge against Spider Boy. And so I won't say how Spider Girl is involved in this. If you read the last issue, you might have some idea. So I don't want to spoil how she's involved in all this, but I definitely do want to learn more about her because even though we kind of know who she is, we still don't know like who she
I
is,
think the
right?
next issue is her origin.
Okay, yeah. So there's more to learn with her, but her look is cool. But yeah, like I said, she's not necessarily a friend to Spider Boy. She definitely has ties to all this. But just want to let you know, first appearance of a cool new character. This is our A cover. I love this with Spider Boy and Daredevil. I love that Daredevil is the one who trained Spider Boy. I think that is fantastic. And then we do have some cool variants. So this is the Michael Cho variant. So there is your look at the new Spider Girl right there.
I like her like tracksuit.
Yeah, this is the Mark Bagley variant with Spider Girl on it right there. And then this is the Torque variant, also with Spider Girl.
Very cool. Next up, I have a very weird book. This is
Okay.
Godzilla's Monsterpiece Theater. This is by Tom Scioli. And yeah, you can look at it right there. That's what the interiors look like too. So this feels very old timey because this is Godzilla meets the Great Gatsby. The crossover you've always wondered
Yep.
about, but
I've
you
been
never
dying for
see.
this, yeah.
But there's more to it than that. So in this, you've got Gatsby, Jay Gatsby. He loves a girl named Daisy, but he goes off to the war. When he comes back, she's already married, and he builds a house across kind of the water from her where he throws these elaborate parties, of course. That's the classic Gatsby story, and he invites her, but she never shows up. Well, one day, all that's going down, and then Godzilla just tears through one of the parties. Like, that's just
Just what he
it's
does.
just what he
Hey,
does.
keep
No,
it down. He parties too loud,
yeah. But because of this, Daisy goes missing. Some people think she's dead. Other people, like Gatsby, thinks that he can find her. So he decides to put together a team he calls the G Force, which is very like he stands there like with his hands on his hips with a jumpsuit. This gets so crazy, and he puts together a team. I don't know if they all actually like join him, but he does go meet with a lot of people, and he will have some joining him. But he goes to see Thomas Edison. He goes to see Sherlock Holmes and Watson. He goes to see Jules Verne, like not the creations of Jules Verne, but Jules Verne the writer. But he's called Jules Verne Cyborg, and he looks like Jules Verne, but he has like a robot arm and a half a robot head and stuff. And he's in the Nautilus. and a certain resident of Carfax Abbey. So this has authors and characters created by authors and Godzilla
Yeah.
and a team that's like Thunderbirds, but it's all these literary characters. This is nuts. It's so much fun. The art is phenomenal. There's a two-page spread where you turn on the side and it's just a full picture
Yeah,
of
that looks really
Godzilla
cool.
fighting planes. This is the same creator that did. I think he did. Did he do Hulk Grand Design? Was that his? He did one of the
Who's the
grand
creator? Oh,
Scioli,
Tom
Tom
Scioli.
Scioli. I can't remember
I
if
think
he.
he did X-Men, didn't he?
No, that was Ed Piskor did
Okay.
that one. I can't remember if he did. He might have done Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
But
He did the, like the Jack Kirby book.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's done a lot of great stuff with a very unique style. If you like this cover, you'll like the interior art on it. So that is your A cover right there, where they're all. I guess this is an homage to Fantastic Four,
Yeah,
#1,
for sure.
where you've got all the characters down there. And who's a mysterious character with a cape with a D on it? Maybe your friendly neighborhood
Yeah,
vampire.
D-Man.
We've also got this one, which is just a great reference to the actual cover of The Great Gatsby. This is by Tom Scioli as well.
All right, well, next up, I've got Green Arrow number 17. This is the first issue in the new All in Air for Green Arrow. Although this is kind of a half and half. Like the first half, let me back up. So we do get it's written by Joshua Williamson. The art is by Amanke Nwelpin. So they do the first half of the book that deals with the ramifications of everything that Oliver Queen did, the lengths he had to go to during Absolute Power to beat Amanda Waller. Green Arrow has to explain himself both to the Justice League and to the Arrow family and hopes that they'll both forgive him. But he does stand by his actions because he says, I went to extreme lengths and I didn't tell you guys what I was doing, but it helped us win. The second half of the book is written by your new creative team of Chris Condon and Montos, who does the artwork. And so this is, introducing you to what the book will be going forward. I'm not really clear on what the storyline's going to be yet. It does appear that there's this shady businessman who was killed by this mysterious killer, and Green Arrow is going to have to figure out who it is and how to take them down. He also gets a new costume in this. We don't really get a clear look at it, but it's there. So if you're keeping up with new costumes, we get one in here. But yeah, the first part of this issue is heavily tied into the events of Absolute Power. So if you haven't read that, you might be a bit confused, but the backup story is a good jumping on point for new readers. So if you do want to hop on Green Arrow, but you haven't been reading anything else before, you could get this and maybe, just like focus on the second half because like I said, that's what's going to take us into the new era of Green Arrow. But it was really good. I can't wait to see, where they go. And it seems like this new story arc is going to be a little bit more street level. This has been a pretty fantastical series so far with him going through the multiverse and dealing with Amanda Waller and all that kind of stuff. So now it does seem like the next story arc is going to be a lot more localized, street level, just the Arrow family, and that's it. And that's pretty cool. So we have our A cover here, and we have this really nice Sean Isaacs variant, who has been the artist up till now. And there is an annual coming out before the next issue that sort of puts a nice bow on everything that's come before too, and it's going to be drawn by Sean Isaacs. So pretty cool.
Next up, I have Dazzler issue #2. This continues to be really fun as Dazzler is going on her world tour. She's a mutant, she's a pop star, but in this one, she is going on kind of a late night show to talk about her tour and all that. But it seems like the host of the late night show only wants to talk about the recent attacks at her concerts. And she's there trying to defend mutants, and she's all about unity and bringing mutants and humans together in harmony. But they really just want her to talk about how dangerous she is and how dangerous her shows are. And she's doing a pretty good job, defending herself and all that until something happens and she gets controlled, or she can't control herself, and she starts shooting light beams out at people, and a lot of horrible stuff happens, along with some of her bandmates slash teammates, all of that, multiple man, and all of them start attacking the set. And who is behind this? We'll have to keep reading to find out. But it was a really fun issue of Dazzler. I like the kind of small scale that her story is currently on. So there is your A cover by Terry Dodson. And then we also have this really nice Pablo Villalobos variant as well.
Well, along those same lines, I've got X-Men number 6. And in this one, there's a group of protesters that have gathered outside of the X-Men base, the X-Men's base up in Alaska. But one of them is a young girl who signals to Temper. She does the thing where she signals that she's a mutant. So Temper and Magic hatch this plan to bring the girl into their base to learn more about who she is, what her powers are, and things like that. And it does have something to do with something we haven't seen since issue number 1 that's kind of coming back around, and I'm really interested in that. Also, Beast finally figures out what has been causing this the X gene activation in people who are later in their life. Normally, it activates in puberty, but throughout the series, we've seen several people who their X gene is activated when they're like full adults. Well, like I said, Beast finally figures out what's causing that, and the X Men have to figure out who's behind it and what to do about it. So, just another really cool issue of X Men if you've been reading it. So, there's our A cover right there. We have this cool Doom variant from Roge Antonio, Magic and Doom right there. And then there's this Derek Chew variant of Magneto. That's really cool. And then there's a 1 in 25 Julian Totino Tedesco variant that we're selling for $14.99.
Next up, I've got Action Comics number 1072. This is continuing our Phantom Zone story. And this one's really cool. I love Mon-El, and we got introduced to Mon-El at the end of the last issue in the Phantom Zone, and Superman is going in there, figure out what is going on, what's up with this creature that escaped that was 3 of the inmates from the Phantom Zone merged together. So he goes to the Phantom Zone. We do get a fun little like recap on who Mon-El is. And then Mon-El kind of tells him what's been going on in the Phantom Zone this entire time, why it's starting to like solidify, where it used to be just a very ethereal space. Now people there are tangible,
Mm.
and there's ground, and it's very almost like barbarian feeling, like they're
Yeah.
on this like ship that's going through the Phantom Zone.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's like a big airship. It makes me think of like Final Fantasy or
Yeah,
something.
it's
Yeah.
very much feeling like that. But he does tell Superman about a few years ago a character named Aether. How would you say his
I
name?
think it's Aether. Yeah.
Aether stumbled into the Phantom Zone, and he felt bad for it. He just looked around. He didn't know these were all criminals there, and he thought, like, oh, I've got to help all these people. But then when he learned that, because he was the one who started to make things tangible, but he learned they're criminals, he turned and started doing terrible things and experimenting on them and all of that, and punishing them. And so it seems like that's kind of going to be the crux of this story, is maybe trying to stop this new character. But most of this issue is the explanation of what's been going on in the Phantom Zone by Mon-El. And you do get some fun action. Apparently they run into some monsters along their way, and you get fun little vignettes of Superman fighting. But Superman is also kind of on a timer for being in the
Yeah.
Phantom Zone, and his powers and all of that he's having to deal with as well. It's a little early Spawn days where he's got a little
Oh
countdown
yeah.
type thing on his wrist. But it's a really fun issue. I'm really enjoying what's going on there, and you do also get the Supergirl backup story that is continuing in this one. So, loving Action Comics. That is your A cover, and then we have a Wes Craig variant as well.
Well, I've got Flash number 14 right here because this is the first issue of Flash in the new All-In era. Still written by Cy Spurrier, who has written the whole series so far, and the artist by Vasco Georgiev. Now, I want to talk about this because I want to stress how cool this is. So I've been I've said before that I actually haven't really enjoyed the current run of Flash. I thought it was a little bit confusing, a little bit not as
cerebral.
yeah. It's like it's very deep. It doesn't feel like it's as fun as it should be for Wally West. However, I really liked this. Like again, this all-in era. They are really doing some fun classic stories, and I thought this was great. So I just wanted to tell you, like, I really didn't enjoy this series, but that's how good this one is that this sort of turned me around. I really enjoyed this. So in this one, the West family take a vacation to Skartaris, And it's cool because they have to go through this like big tunnel, and it's almost like coming out into. They make a joke about Jurassic Park, like
Yeah,
they
it's
go through this tunnel and come
journey to
out.
the center of the
Yeah,
earth.
that's what I'm thinking
Yeah.
of. So Wally insists that this is going to be a fun, relaxing, non-superhero family vacation, but we learn that the reason they're there in the first place is because Warlord, who lives in Skartaris, he sent a message to the Justice League asking for help because a powerful sorcerer known as the Weather Wizard is threatening Skartaris, and Wally's a bit confused by this because Weather Wizard has never really been all that evil. So he wants to go help, but he's also promised Linda that he would take some family time. So he tries to kill two birds with one stone, and
It's a very like classic Wally thing
yeah,
to
yeah.
do. Is like, no, it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun, and I'm not going to do any super heroic things, but of course he can also move at the speed of light, so maybe he can do it and not tell her. But I don't want to spoil anything else. But yeah, like I said, I really like this a lot. I like the artwork. It was a little bit more stylized and cartoony, but in a good way. We also see. I don't. This isn't technically the first appearance of Flash's new costume, but chronologically,
Yeah.
within the context of the DC universe, this is the first time he wears the new suit.
So you talk about why he has it or anything?
He just says he's ready for a. He's been thinking about a redesign, and it's a little bit of an homage to, like, the mask is a bit of an homage to Barry's mask, and there's lines on it that serve a purpose. So they do talk about it a
Okay.
little bit. But yeah, this was really good. I was so happy to read this and thought, hey, I'm enjoying reading Flash again. So if you've been looking to jump on Flash, I know there's some other folks who didn't really enjoy this run so far. Try this out. I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised. So that's our A cover right there. And then this is our Daikuran cover,
It's
which
awesome.
yeah, that looks really cool.
Well, next up, I have Conquest 2099 number 2. So you can see right there. You know, I guess it's cat's out of the bag that
Oh
Nova
yeah.
is Wolverine in
What?
the future, which is really cool. I really like that one-shot issue that revealed that. But not a whole lot to say about the story in this one. But I did want to talk about, we do have our team up in this of Spider-Man 2099, Wolverine, who is Nova now, Spider-Woman 2099, which was introduced in this, plus the X-Men 2099, which is like Psyche, which is like Cyclops. I don't
I
really
don't. Yeah.
know these characters as well, the X Men of 2099 and all that. But in this, we do get our first appearance of Web Weaver 2099, which could set the record for most recently introduced character that then got a
Yeah.
2099 iteration of them. But there is there's Spider Side 2099 and all his people that were revealed in the first issue that are kind of the main antagonists of this. But Spider Web Weaver goes up against some of Spider Side's spider people in this, and this could have been a red band issue
Yeah.
because of apparently Web Weaver's webs can slice through almost anything, and you're getting bits and chunks of like humanoid alien spider people going everywhere. Spider Woman 2099 does something that's like pretty graphic in this. Plus, you do get Dracula, who is through all of these 2099 series that Steve Orlando's been writing, has kind of been in the background, reveals himself, but there is a cosmic character that may pop up to cause issues with Dracula. So a
Oh
fun
yeah.
issue. It's just crazy to see like all these 2099 characters working together and all the stuff they do. So if you've been enjoying it, if you've been reading it all along, this is a continuation of all of these 2099 series that have been going on for quite a while now. So that is your A cover for that. We've got this really nice
I like this. Yeah.
Pete Woods variant, and it says sensational web slicing issue, and that is accurate. There is a lot of web slicing in this one, and we have this uh, X Men 2099 variant with Cyclops and Phoenix 2099 on there, but they call them Psych.
Well, I've got X Factor number 3. And in this one, X Factor is sent on a mission to the moon to destroy a base that's being run by a rogue AI. And, that shouldn't be much of a problem for X Factor. They've got some heavy hitters on their team, but the only problem is that AI knows the powers of every member of X Factor because it has a Click Clock account, which is Marvel's version of TikTok, right? And this interpretation of X Factor, they're all about they're corporatized and they're government run, and so every member of the team has their own Click Clock account, and it tells about their powers and everything. So this AI knows about all of them, so that means it knows how to neutralize the powers of every member of X Factor. Well, the only member of X Factor that doesn't have a Click Clock account is Granny Smite. Because, she's a little old granny, right? And her mutant power basically is that she's just immortal. She can't die. So she may be the key to making this mission a success because the AI never accounted for her. So I thought this was really interesting because this series is goofy, but like it's supposed to be. The people running X Factor, they're morons basically, and they're all about social media and clicks and being sponsored by the government and that kind of thing. And half the team, they're a bunch of big goofballs like Pyro, for example. But Havoc is leading the team, and he really is trying to do the best that he can. He's trying to help mutants and help the world, despite being just faced with all this goofy stuff all the time. So it's a nice juxtaposition of I'm trying to do good things, but I'm working with a bunch of idiots. So it's kind of neat to see. But yeah, I like this issue. This actually may have been my favorite issue of the three so far. Just Granny Smite. She's a great character. We don't see her much. We haven't seen her much in the first two issues, but in this one, she has a great part. So just a cool issue of X Factor. There's our A cover right here. We got a couple cool variants. This is the Woods variant. That's your Doom variant. And then this is the Russell Dodderman variant with Polaris, all her looks. And there's my favorite though. That's my '90s X Factor right there. That's what I like.
Yep. Well, last one for me is Void Rivals issue number 13. And I've got to talk about this just because it continues to be so good. And a lot of your Void Rivals, Transformers, and G.I. Joe are all coming together because we do see, I mean, you can see on the cover with Pythona the return of Cobra Law. And she was supposed to go out on a mission to Cybertron to learn about the Cybertronians and their weaknesses and all of that, but she did fail, and she's going to have to answer for that. Plus, in this, Derek uh, goes back to his home side of the ring. I
Yeah.
guess if you call it his home, it's not his home planet. The home side of the ring, where he finally confronts his father about
Mm.
what he has learned this entire time. He knows that the two sides have been communicating. He knows about the Transformers. He knows about all of this, and is finally ready to go to his father and be like, "You've been lying to everybody, and you need to fess up." And his father may have stuff to say back to him about all of that. But that's really cool. And then on the other side, you've got Salila, who now is in possession of Handroid, which is always delightful. And she makes a really interesting discovery that I'm interested to see what it's all about going forward. But another great issue of Void Rivals, and yeah, so you get in this one. I don't know if it's for the first time, but a very obvious time references to the GI Joe universe, the
Mm.
Transformers universe, and Void Rivals. Which I mean, who thought we would get here?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So that is your A cover, and then we also have this uh, Euless variant as well.
You said that was your last one?
Yep.
Because I got three more, but I'll zip through these pretty quick. So we have Harley Quinn number 44. This is the first issue of Harley Quinn in the new All In era. You've got Elliot Callan writing this, Mindy Lee on art. And in this one, Harley Quinn is having a bit of a crisis of conscience. She thinks that she's not bad enough for the bad guys, but not good enough for the good guys. And she thinks back to her time when she was still in college, living in a terrible part of Gotham City called Throat Cut Hill. And it was a really bad run down part of the city, but she actually was able to make a home there and make friends there. And she decides that to get a fresh start on her life, she needs to move back there. But when she gets there, she's horrified to learn that it's been completely gentrified. There's all these nice little shops and everything. and she learns about the corporation that is responsible for turning the neighborhood around, and she butts heads with the head of that corporation, and they're going to be the main antagonists of this story. So this was a little bit more fun. This isn't, like she's not like involved in any like heavy Batman stuff. This is just kind of her, having a new fun little story. So I have to see where that goes. Well, this is our A cover right here, and in this she also gets a new costume, which you can see on that cover right there by David Nakayama. So that's her new look in this, and of course, first issue of All In. This is our Daniel Sampere foil variant with Harley there. And then keeping in line with the new All In stuff, we've also got Power Girl number 14, written by Leah Williams and the art's by Adriana Mello. Now, it kind of feels this is the first issue of the All In era. It kind of feels like maybe the last issue should have been, because I feel like this builds on the previous issue. There is this new hero in Metropolis named Ejecta. And she's kind of like this cybernetically enhanced social media influencer who can fly. She's got super strength, but she's also seemingly can predict crimes before they happen, but how and why seems a little bit sus there. Power Girl doesn't trust her, so she gets help from Omen and Natasha Irons and her co-worker from the Daily Bugle named, I'm sorry, Daily Planet.
Daily Planet.
I said, I even have Daily Bugle in my notes.
Unforgivable.
Daily Planet named Mariposa. She gets their help to stage a crime to draw Ejecta out and learn more about her, but that plan may backfire. So if you've been looking to jump on Power Girl, maybe grab issue number 13 and then grab this one too. But you should have a good time with that. So that is our A cover.
So I think the last issue maybe was the first appearance of Ejecta.
I think it was, yeah. And then of course we have our Daniel Sampere foil variant right there. And then the last one I want to talk about just super quick is the Avengers number 19, because this one features Doctor Doom, and we know that we're about to get into the One World Under Doom stuff now that Doctor Doom is the Sorcerer Supreme. And now that Doctor Doom is the Sorcerer Supreme, he summons the Avengers. And it's funny because they said they were expecting him to do that at some point. And to ask them, why, with all the power they have, why have they never taken control of the world and do good things for the world, like end war? And they have to tell him, just because they have the power to do stuff like that doesn't mean they have the right to do that. Just because, they can control the world doesn't mean they should do it. But Doctor Doom being Doctor Doom, he says, well, I have the power to do it, and I think that I should do it. And I kind of feel like that's planting a few little seeds into all this One World Under Doom stuff that we're going to get. So not super important if you want to read that stuff, but you don't read this. It's not like this is a part one of anything, but it just kind of shows you that Doctor Doom's mindset. I now have this great power. I can do what I want, and I am going to do what I want. So that's what you get out of this. So there's our A cover right there. We have. It's funny. This is the. Well, no. This is our Paco Medina variant. And then it's funny that this is the Doom variant. All of the books have had Doom variants, but Doom hasn't been a part of it. But this Doom is a whole big part of this, and it's a Doom variant, and that is by Todd Knock. And that is it.
That is it.
That is it.
So this was a very big week. Start off with some very heavy hitters with Iron Man #1, Absolute Wonder Woman, all of those. Those are not going to last. So head on over to infinityflux.net right now where you can order these. They are live right now. You can order them while supplies last, and it's not going to last a long time. I think we're probably going to be sold out of Absolute Wonder Woman on Wednesday.
You think so?
Maybe the weekend at the latest, but Batman did not last the week.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to go very, very fast. So don't hesitate. Order now. I sound like I'm on QVC. And
the 10th caller gets whatever.
If you order now, we'll triple your order. No, we won't. But remember, if you do order while supplies last, you get that Justice League membership card. That is also while supplies last, because we only have so many of them. And I've already claimed one, and Matt's already claimed one.
That's right.
That's 2 less for you. So you snooze, you lose. But we have our show coming up on Wednesday, where we'll be going over the comics you can pre-order early, which is a big one. But also, we are going to do a bonus episode on Wednesday. We usually do our mailbag, our letters page videos every other week. We did one this last Wednesday. We're doing one again because we just wrapped up New York Comic Con, and we're going to be talking about all the news and announcements
Yep.
and all the fun stuff that happened in New York Comic Con. So if you have questions or comments or whatever about what you saw or heard or whatever from New York Comic Con, we've got Ultimate X-Men. We've got
Or Ultimate Wolverine.
Ultimate Wolverine.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we've got Aquaman #1.
Yep.
What everyone is talking about the most. What I'm most excited about.
We've got Hush 2.
Hush 2. We've got so much more. We've got
Yeah.
the Big World Under Doom stuff. We've got Absolute Martian Manhunter.
Uh-huh.
We've got all the Absolute Green Lantern and Absolute Flash to talk about. We're going to have a full list, but let us know in the comments, either on here or TikTok or wherever. Let us know, and we will bring all those together, and we'll
Yep.
talk about it all live on Wednesday. So don't miss out on that. And I think that is all. So
That is it. Yep.
until next time, see
See ya.
ya.